Ladies and gentlemen, formally welcome to the World Fitness and Wellness Online Summit. I have the pleasure of moderating a great session now looking at investment in growth across various different companies across the ecosystem. I'm joined by 5 fantastic panelists. I'm going to go around from my clockwise on my screen in Zoom here and go all the way around. First up is Julianne James, who is the founder and CEO of 2 businesses, one Aquababies and secondly PABS. Aquababies is a franchise model looking at aquatic swimming and aquatic business models, and our consultancy also consults people around aquatic business strategies. I then look at Brian Chappon. Brian is the founder and CEO of Centered Wellness, a new travel portal, a travel wellness and fitness portal, and Brian will talk about that in a few seconds. Michael Jordan joins us as founder and CEO of both 12 Round and UBX, a fantastic brand that started in Australasia and is now going into Australia and further beyond, and he'll talk more on that later. Peter Thew. Pete is one of the co-founders of Yoga Movement, who are one of the most preeminent brands here in Southeast Asia, not just in yoga, but in the entire boutique fitness market. And Myan, Director of Growth and Innovation at Evolution Wellness. Evolution Wellness, of course, are one of the largest portfolio companies looking at fitness and wellness across Asia Pacific. Julianne, Brian, Michael, Nad, Peter, thank you very much. If you can give everyone a quick wave. Hello, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Good. Hello. Good. We're going to try and keep this nice and fun and friendly, people. I know it's kind of late in the day. Some of you might join early. Some might be joining for the first few minutes. So we're going to keep this fun. Every single person in this panel has, I'm going to use the bingo word of pivot, and somehow manages to change their business, but for the better through this crisis. So there is growth and opportunity, and these companies are a great benchmark of that. The first question I was going to ask, and let me just ask you yourself, Julianne, is basically a 2-winged question. How has 2020 altered your long-term strategy? So we'll focus on strategy for the first part of the question, Julianne, and then following up with that, we'll dovetail into how has it affected your product line? How has it affected what are you offering the market? So Julianne, 2 parts to that question. How has 2020 so far impacted your strategy and then your product offering?
I think even before 2020, in any business model, any strategy, we have to have an element of adaptation. We must be able to adapt. We must be able to be flexible. So first, for me, it was to review my existing company, which is Aquababies, review what went right, what went wrong, how I can develop that, to come up with a new strategy. So with a strategy, to implement new points in the strategy, you have to revise, to add critical thinking. And also for a new program, you need to get feedback before you even enter that into your strategy. Is this new concept going to work? So I contacted aqua fitness professionals around the world, the researchers from Griffith University about strength and conditioning, to find out whether my new strategy is viable. And they not only agree, but they agreed to join me in a collaboration. So therefore my strategy has already become stronger. But I had to put that in stepping stone process, critical thinking, what's going to go right, what can we do, a problem solving methods as we go along. But long terms, just something that's going to sustain over long term means continual adaptation. Adjusting, creating. Creativity increases productivity. So when you've got a group of people, you can collaborate, you brainstorm. It's a great way to improve your model. But I had to come up with new concepts and also draw of other people with new concepts. So therefore, we've got a short-term strategy expanding to a long-term strategy of ever-growing productation, new concepts, new ideas, and staying positive during that period.
Love that.
So looking forward to the future.
Love that, Julianne. Thanks very much. Brian, if I can turn your attention to you, you've made a brave choice this year in your strategy. If you could share more.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, by the way. Appreciate it. Yeah, for us, it was funny. We went and focused on building this platform, over a year and a half ago, and really pushed hard last September. And so when the pandemic hit, for us, it was all about that Kairos moment of opportunity. We just felt where a lot of people thought we were crazy to launch a travel platform in the middle of a pandemic. We were thinking, no, I think it's the perfect time. So we just kind of just dug deep and jumped into it and went out there and found the right partners, the right capital, and the right team to just make this thing happen. And it wasn't easy, and it has been easy at times, but it has been super exciting. And I think that's what's energized our team, was kind of prove people, hey, we can launch something within the travel fitness space in the middle of a pandemic. And also, we see it's not that you can't look at the now. You have to look at what's going on the next 2 to 5, 10 years when you run a business. And people are going to start jumping back into travel. And people are going to want to see travel from a different perspective. And I think for us, we want to change travel. And we're always a little frustrated. That's why we kind of created Centered, was that people weren't really listening to customers, from airports, airlines, still on, just weren't listening to customers. And that's what Centered was kind of birthed out of us the last 8 years of being in the travel space. So for us, it was like, this is the time to jump in, jump off the cliff, so to speak, and make it happen. And so we've been energized for that process. So
I think we've all known there's a rebound recovery for fitness. I think we're seeing that in some of the gyms, obviously for wellness and some of the spas. I think travel is the next one, of course, Brian. So fully behind that. I think it's a great idea and great opportunity to jump in there. Michael, yourself, of course. I mean, you've got a large portfolio of companies across multiple states and multiple countries. How has 2020 impacted your strategy, and what, if anything, are you looking to try and tweak it going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the word tweak. For us, the long-term vision and strategy doesn't change. We endeavour to be the leading and largest boxing and strength community in the world, and what drives that growth for us is creating a franchise model that's rewarding and enjoyable for our franchisees to operate. And then for our members, ensuring we provide the most convenient, enjoyable and effective workout on the market. And so that's driven our strategy since the beginning. And all we've had to really do is look at that strategy and work out how that relates to navigating this short to medium term, where we've had to fast track those initiatives which were a little further down the project list, namely the at-home training programs, so that we could create, something that felt like U-Box and 12 round for our members, was easy for our franchisees to deliver, and worked on those same product differentiators that, brought members into our bricks and mortar community in the club, but just translated to our at-home program. So, on the convenience stake, people love us for our no set class time. So when we were building out our app, we needed to make sure that it was really quick and accessible and easy to use. The effectiveness, we needed to make sure, our programming was going to get great results for members, even if they didn't have access to all the equipment. And then that enjoyment factor for us is twofold. One is the boxing. You learn a skill at U-Box and 12 round. And so we made sure that boxing was a critical part of the programming, where Danny Green was doing masterclass sessions with members and all that stuff, as well as the team sport culture that we have in club. We wanted to ensure our franchisees and coaches could still create that vibe through our app, through the Zoom catch-ups, through the Facebook closed groups. So it still had that same feel and sense that you have in club, and that enabled us to keep more members engaged throughout this strange 6-month period, and also ensuring that those investments weren't just for this lockdown period, that they were going to add value to the model post-lockdown, which was another critical part of assessing the projects that we worked on.
Thanks, Michael. Pete, I'll come to you next and then finish up on NAD. I know you've been busy, especially on the tech side, on the training side. What's changed on your 2020 strategy? How has it impacted you, and where do you see a way forward?
Yeah, I think for us, it's been, it's easier to sit here now and the fog has somewhat cleared, even though we're still in very much the middle of this whole global pandemic. But it's easy to forget that we're in such a difficult place with a real lack of information, a real lack of decisiveness from global governments about what was going to happen. But at the time, what we were trying to hold on to so strongly was a traditional model that had served us so well in the past. And so whilst we do have a longer term strategy, we didn't want to move away from something that was traditionally so successful. So we had to go through those kind of stages of acceptance and then generate a new plan going forward. But once we did realize what we needed to do, we realized we had versions of what was needed already in the books. It was just about pulling different levers and letting things go quicker than they were intended to go. and releasing them to market. The biggest thing that's been affected for us, or the thing that we've appreciated, is that we realize we need to mitigate the risk of having only a few revenue streams in a single market to multiple revenue streams in multiple markets. And from a product side of things, what that meant for us was, number one, we had to continue to hustle in studio where we already have a business, a physical business. There's no way we could just back out of those things. We needed to make sure they were epic and excellent. And even if those locations were running at break even or lesser, we still had to hold on to them and make them the best version of themselves. Our second point that we focused on was the tech side of things. So we do have what's called the Yoga Movement app, which is a ground up developed app that we built in the last 18 months that runs our whole business and has a front facing app. We're actually releasing version 2 of that in 2 weeks time, which I do joke that it's too good for our 6 studio business here in Singapore. It's a really pretty amazing little bit of tech, and we're looking forward to releasing version 2. But beyond that, we released YM Live, which is our online studio through this pandemic situation. We've actually got up to 100 classes a week, which are running at around 85 to 90% capacity utilization. So the further integration of that into our consistent offering was part of the plan, or part of the strategy. The third thing we're looking at is our training center, Yoga Movement Academy, which is a traditional teacher training with a few elements for yoga movement added into it. And because through this period, I think the psyche of people is to, address what they're doing with their lives and how they're spending their work days and what their lifestyle is going to look like in the next 5 years. We've had a huge uptake in teacher trainings and actually added 5 new intakes in the back half of this year. And then the fourth and final thing that we are focusing on is our licensed partner agreement. So in the last 18 months, we've actually worked with a third party on developing all of our franchise support systems. We haven't really gone out and talked about it that much. So we're actually releasing an independent website to start to garnish support around potentially putting yoga movement physical studios outside of Singapore by way of licensed partnership. So it's just kind of accelerating what was already in the mix, but pushing on a few things, pulling back on a few things, and working out what the right mix is for right now.
Thanks, Pete. I mean, that's a very busy year, obviously expanding across multiple parts of your business. So congrats. Now that pretty much dovetails straight into what your year's been: technology, licensing, different revenue streams. How's things been at Evolution Wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like much of the rest of the panel, we haven't really changed too many of the plans. We've certainly accelerated some of the plans based on the conditions that have been forced upon us, but we continue to focus on getting our core brands to full strength, particularly Fitness First and Celebrity, where we already have good scale. We're pressing on as planned with growth of our brands GoFit in the HVLP space and Fire Fitness in the boutique space, which we recently announced is now available under licensing. What we have shifted slightly is we've got more of a determination to now reach a global audience with those brands, as opposed to our prior focus really being on just Southeast Asia. So we've opened up the opportunities globally. As with many other operators, we've needed to fast track what was already a planned move to embrace digitally centric product offerings. We'd already begun to develop digital tools and features with our sister company, Evolution Wellness Solutions. So we've now accelerated that because of the pandemic and the effect that's had on the core business. Our vision is to remain steadfast to our wellness agenda. We are Evolution Wellness after all. We're still growing. We've got great plans to leverage the capabilities of 5 elements in its yoga, mindfulness, plant-based cuisine, etc. So we're still busy, still got a lot going on. And as I say, there's been more acceleration than there has been a shift in plan.
Thanks, Nad. Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, what's very obvious here is the fact that these companies have made some very innovative decisions, invested in their future, and quite brave decisions. Now, of course, when you're making these decisions, I'm going to turn to the panel and ask them exactly what went through their mind before they pulled the trigger, because, of course, they're weighing up a number of pros, they're weighing up a number of cons. I'm going to ask the panel, ladies and gents, your biggest pro and your biggest con. So what eventually made you pull the trigger, Julianne, but what was the thing that held you back?
I think for me, I've been in one side of my product. My product was baby swimming. And as that becomes more known of the health benefits, it becomes more commercial. So I had to look whether that's a long-term, it's always going to be an existing company, but as a franchise, or is it long-term? But then I wanted to look at the health benefits of aquatic development overall. Now, the pivot was actually coming to the summit. I'm not just giving you a plug, Ross, but it was so professional and there was so many fitness experts that really inspired me to have trust in myself as well, because there is a niche. There's so many swimming pools and gyms and hotels, and now is the time where everyone needs to recoup their finances. So by turning that swimming pool into a business, I collected and collaborated with professionals from all over the globe. So the summit made me realize that not everything should be about health and well-being is great, what everyone does, and they're all inspiring. But the aquatic industry, I think, should be part of the health and well-being sector as well. Now, swimming is a skill for life. It should be an essential skill for life. So I think, offering programs that we can give back to the community by utilizing the pools to work with the fitness industry hand in hand, land-based and pool-based to work hand in hand to offer something that, is well worth and provides so many health benefits. So the summit was my pivoting to realize that I can do this.
We'll take that compliment. Thanks very much, Julianne. Michael, yourself up next, of course. You've been busy expanding UBX as well, of course, as well as your maybe more domestic market. What kept you up at night from pushing on your investments, and then what made you pull the trigger?
Well, yeah, I'd say the biggest con with all, some of the immediate projects we've focused on over the last 6 months is, where nothing is ever going to replace the bricks and mortar experience in club, and moving away from projects that, was our central part of our business, knowing that, you can run the best training app and Zooms in the world, but it won't quite be the same. And that's both from a member engagement perspective and also from a business model perspective, meant that we knew that it wasn't going to be like replacing the bricks and mortar business. So that was sort of the hardest part that I guess all fitness providers have had to go through, that stage of turning their real life community to the online community. But once we got over that, we looked at two key things. The investments we were going to make, we're going to provide a sustainable sort of membership model for franchisees that serve both paying and non-paying members, so that they had something to then deliver out to their communities, and have done a brilliant job of that across all the countries and regions. And then secondly, looking at, as I mentioned before, how these investments were going to add value to the model post-lockdown. And what we know from our members is they, even when the clubs are open, they still travel, they still, for work, for leisure, sometimes they can't get to the gym. And through the pressure of this period of fast tracking this at-home program with the Train at Home app, we've built this really solid support system for members when they're away from the club now. And so what that means for our members coming back, they've got a more complete experience as a U-Box and 12 Grand member. So they get the typical service and experience in the club, but whenever they're away from the club, they can access daily workouts, get daily meal plans, which they can swap out, mobility and meditation exercise, all these different components, which they wouldn't have had access before. So, it's that short-term navigation for providing the competitive at-home model, but also being excited about what that means for the overall business model for franchisees and members post-lockdown. So they drove our decisions, and of course, as part of that, we had to make sure we budgeted and forecast appropriately, reduced, certain resources at HQ, but kept the tech team fully stacked and fully resourced, as they have been very, very busy the last 6 months.
Well, like you say, Michael, how do you make sure that you're part of your members' daily lives? I think Chuck Runyon talked on it earlier on, your phone is the best piece of real estate. How do you stay connected to your members every single day so they're thinking about you and your health and fitness journey? Brian, let me turn to you at the moment in time, because, of course, when you were making this investment decision, you've come from maybe more of a tech world than all of us have initially. What were your thoughts in terms of looking at this marketplace as an investment and then pulling the trigger?
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. I mean, for us, we just, again, I think Centered was really just created out of, 10 years, 20 years of traveling all the time, and all of us complain about the travel experience. from Stale Airport Lounge to, the whole thing, jet lag and so on. So for us, it was really a no-brainer. Timing is of the essence, I thought, from our perspective, even before COVID, was we got to make this investment. We got to make it now. Now, as an entrepreneur, of course, you say that because you believe in your business, you passionately believe it, and then you have to take the criticism, right? And then, you're going to get criticism. I heard one time a great mentor of mine said, a great salesman is a man or woman who can overcome objections. And for us, there was a lot of objections during the March, April, May about, you sure you want to do a travel wellness? What is travel wellness? What does that even mean? And so you're going to put some capital into this. And for us, again, I always went back, it's a no-brainer. We're going to do this. We're passionate about changing travel. And this pandemic just accelerated. We hear that word a lot, or word pivot, which I hate right now. Or the word experience that we use a lot. It's amazing all the tag words we've used the last 3 years. But for us, it was a no-brainer. We're gonna jump off this thing and make it happen and evolve. And I think I like what Michael was talking about, customer experience and having the phone near you. We're learning from you guys too, because our product just launched, and just to see what people are doing from fitness to hospitality. We want to learn from how to engage in our customers. So it was interesting between March and now, talking to brand, talking to boutique fitness, talking to hospitality, talking to wellness retreats, and just hearing what they have to say, what their struggles are, and going, okay, well, Centra's there to really make an investment in you and drive our marketplace of value-add members to you. And so again, it's to answer the question, it wasn't even really, we didn't even think anything of it, but yes, let's do this and make it happen. We're so glad we did when we did, because I think when we come out of this thing in the next, who knows when, I love how everybody has a different opinion on when we're going to come out of it, but we don't really care what people are saying when we come out and all that stuff. Is there a new norm? Is there not a new norm? And it doesn't matter to us. I heard Ian Schrager said the other day, he goes, I really don't care if there's a new norm, because we know that how humans react. And I think we're all just going to flood back to the things that we love. And I think what you can get out of this time right now, even if it's not a capital investment, but all the personal investment we're putting in our body, and you look at all the cool things that are going on, look how many people are jumping into fitness and wellness right now. It's amazing. And it was booming before the pandemic, but God, I can't wait to hear the stories of people, the weight loss programs and all these things. That's not what Centra does, but I love watching, and all the yogis that are out there that maybe pick this up during this time. It's pretty cool. So it's inspiring, I think, to see people make that investment. And so for us, it was like, absolutely, we're going to make that investment. We're going to continue to make that investment, and it's going to see where it goes.
Thanks very much, Brian. Nad, let me pull you in here, of course, because as one of the biggest operators in the whole of the region, you did take a hit, of course, as did all operators, when it comes to revenue from members not being at the clubs. But of course, you're launching products, trying to make sure that you are pushing through new ideas. How do you look at that from an investment pipeline? Again, coming back to the initial question, what kept you up at night, and eventually what got you over the line?
Yeah, really, really interesting and somewhat bizarre time to start licensing your product offering. At the moment where people are really conscientious about where they're spending their money, and we're looking for investors to partner with us in the health and fitness business, which at the beginning of all of this was getting a really bad rap. That kept me up and still keeps me up at night. We will get there. We've got a great product offering. We're committed to both brands, right? We've built out in our own space, our own estate. We have the budget brand, we have the boutique brand. They both work exceptionally well, and we know we've got a fantastic offering for anybody else who is looking for a good brand to invest in with the right backup of 20 years of operating across Southeast Asia and many other markets. We have execs that have worked here, across the world. I think the other thing really was our virtual. What do we do with virtual? How far do we pull the trigger? I think as an industry, wow, what a mistake to be giving all of that awesome content away to people free of charge. Too reactive, too quick. I don't think anybody really thought it through properly. We're flooding the internet with free content, and here we are now trying to get people to shift from consuming what was free to now saying, okay, well, now we need you to pay for that content. We've made a rod for our own backs there. But we'll get there. But I think the other thing that it does, though, it makes sure that what we do offer in a digital space is that much more compelling than what the free stuff was. So it's pushing our limits in terms of what that offering is going to be in order to make it attractive to the end consumer. So that's all really good, cool, fun stuff to be getting involved in.
Pete, your closing thought on this question?
Yeah, for us, I mean, we weren't always a specifically profit-driven company at all. We definitely did want to work towards a profit and the revenue target, but it wasn't the thing that determined every decision that we made. But I think through this period, for us to choose where we do place our chips, it's more about increasing value than just having profit. So when we're looking at these things we're looking to build out over the next 12 or 24 months, it's not only going to be about how much cash can we pull from this, but how much value can we generate from this. So that's been a fundamental change that we've brought into our business through this period, and that I think will carry over for a period of time. Some of the positives and negatives through this period, though, around the decision making has been, and to start on the negative, is that usually in the normal course of the world, I'll have 3 or 4 people I'll talk to from different industries that I would see as mentors that I would go to for guidance, and they would generally 85% of the time say the same thing. What I really struggled with through this period was that going to see my regular contacts, they were all saying different things and my radar was completely off. So it was hard to get a gauge for the correct decision making in the first place. So there was a lot of instability, and I saw that as the biggest challenge through this period to make these decisions. But I will give a shout out to my team and to the business that we've established, in that the pro through this period has been the capability of the team that we've built here at Yoga Movement and some of the things that they've put in place. I can sit here on this panel right now and say, look, we did YM Live and it's currently the best online property in Southeast Asia and we're doing 100 classes a week. We were not doing that. That was not my decision. I pushed back on that. I said, we're not doing it. We're not doing on demand. We're not doing live streaming. To Nad's comments before, I didn't believe we should be giving things out for free. I thought that there's going to be an oversupply of this globally, and that if we do go online, we go borderless and we start to compete with the very best in the world that have been very well capitalized and had 3 or 4 years to generate a capability in this area. And to my team's credit, they came back and said, no, I think we can do this. As a 23-page kind of document around what we can do and what we can stand for with live and how we can replicate our in-studio experience online. And they got it across the board, and it's been successful. So whilst we have had periods of instability and it's difficult being with the decision-making process, the pro for me has been our team stepping up, looking at numbers, looking at facts, and doing the best we can in this time to make good decisions.
Thanks, Pete. To summarize, ladies and gents, I think we all realized that a lot of us have crashed into this free online virtual content, and it has made things difficult for our industry. I think here in Asia, we've saw a flood of market content, a lot of that being free, and again, trying to claw that back is difficult. But now that there's some establishment in the consumer mind that they have to pay for such things, I think we're starting to see this little bit turn of the tide. We're halfway through, ladies and gentlemen, and if you've got some questions for the audience or the panel, please do put them in the comments box. If you want to leave, again, your URL in the comments box, please do so as well. We're going to slightly move the discussion now to talk about brand, which I know, of course, is very key to all of these companies as they grow up. Pete, let me keep on you for the moment. I know this is one of your kind of expert topics. Looking at brand equity, looking at company culture, what have you done through this crisis to try and reinforce and strengthen both?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, brand is absolutely everything. I have a little catchphrase that a brand is the sum of all experiences had with it. And I truly believe that. I believe that every touch point of everything that you do needs to be consistent and quality and delivered in a considerable manner. And so for us, it's been challenging when one of your main touch points of your business, which is your in-studio experience, is just literally closed. And I don't know about you guys, but one of the worst things that happened was everyone had to close so abruptly that the closure signage that went up on our windows was just black and white text, and it wasn't on brand and it wasn't the correct font, all these kind of things. And even me seeing that signage kind of hurt my heart a little bit. But for us, it's been about trying to think of clients first, trying to keep them engaged. We still have 2 to 3 YM Life articles that come out every single week. We did create the YM Live property, and we made sure that we were consistently touching the clients, but also consistently touching our staff as well through this whole period. So it's consistency of a quality message that we were trying to put out there. The other thing that we were trying to do is, once we did reopen, we didn't want to reopen and just look at the P&L and go, oh, we're spinning the wheels too hard. Let's close this location. Let's close this one. Let's consolidate here. it still needed to be client first with the consideration of how we operate. And that was some difficult decision making because we were making losses at some of the locations, but we thought it was hyper important from a brand perspective that we not only maintain our studio base and our class count, but actually double down on it. Whereas some were pulling back and moderating their class schedule at locations or even potentially closing them. We were trying to add more. So we added over 100 classes a week to our schedule just to hopefully get people in studio, even though every class that we added was somewhat inefficient from a P&L perspective. But we just thought that was important from an optics perspective and a brand perspective. From a team side of things, one thing that we've always done at Yoga Movement is that when we push out campaigns to the public, which is usually once a month, we also push out campaigns internally. We believe in putting art and excellent message and a really succinct kind of campaign even to our team. So through this whole period, we've been trying to market to our team as well, keep them as confident as possible and encourage that we've got this through this period. So even when we developed our new business plan on reopening, we literally put it in front of every single staff member face to face, talk through the business plan at length in hour-long sessions, and gave them the opportunity to engage us and ask questions. And we're approaching 150 staff members. So that was literally in some points living my worst nightmare on repeat. But at the same time, you dread going into those conversations, but you come out of them very, very encouraged. And it was a really, really good experience in the end. So we've just tried to maintain contact as much as possible to both the client side and to the staff side.
Thanks, Pete. Nad, a bit of contrast, of course. I mean, a larger business, but again, no shortage of focus on culture. What have you been doing at EW to make sure there's some brand equity being built up, the communications there, the culture's being strengthened?
Well, so, EW is a big group. We've grown from a portfolio at inception of only 2 brands, Celebrity Fitness and Fitness First, and we now are 7. And we include not only our fitness clubs, but wellness brand and a software company. So there's a ton of moving parts, lots of different expectations, lots of different customers to please. We've had a lot of great exposure this year. 4 press releases, 2 about GoFit, our HVLP brand. We've just had the one on Fire, launching the licensing for that boutique concept, circuit software solution, and it's essential that the brand equity is of high value across all of those different segments all of the time. Everybody talks about the pivot into digital, which I hate that term as well, Brian, that pivot. Everybody's pivoting. Frankly, it's become more of a business necessity than a quirky little nice to have. But I also think it's super, super important that we recognize the investment that we made and the effort and additional work that it has and continues to take to ensure that our members are confident in all of the measures that we're taking to ensure their health and safety when they come and visit the clubs. That's required a tremendous volume of social media exposure, communication both externally and internally. Our increased cleaning protocols have been really interesting because we're now seeing better habits from our members. So it's all getting through. The message is getting through all the way down the pipeline, and we've got great pickup on all of that. In addition, and to speak to what Peter and Michael have done with internalizing and making sure that the message is spread amongst our team members, we took the opportunity to realign the whole group. The entire team are now moving to a digital platform which will deliver all of our ways of working, our performance expectations, underpins what all of our key values are across the different brands, and all of them have different messages. So we've got approximately 7,000 staff that are shifting to that new modality in the next month or so. So huge amounts of work happening in the background.
Thanks, Nad. Michael, the same to you. I mean, and obviously you're now working across various continents, but again, no easy challenge. But how do you build up the brand equity and brand affinity and then culture across multiple brands?
Yeah, well, we've got the 2 brands, 12 Round, which is the Australian brand, and U-Box, which is the international brand. They're the exact same product and model. So from that side, it was more so just looking at the wider message we wanted to send to the greater network, which included first and foremost franchisees and your coaches and your members, and then even the communities where our clubs were, that messaging we wanted to trail all the way through. Our overarching message when we went into that first period was "We fight as one," which sort of symbolizes how we wanted to approach this. We all wanted to collectively support one another. And of course, the most important first step of that was getting together with all the franchisees and working through during that chaotic period when you saw this big tidal wave of COVID coming and you're like, what the hell are we going to do? But just taking a breath and putting together a plan, which I think was really important for us. So communicating that, I heard the other day, you don't want a vision during this period, you want a plan. And we actually saw Dr. Paul Bedford's did a really good piece about 3 phases, the adaptation, isolation, and reactivation. And so for us, it was initially just mapping out that roadmap for franchisees, right? How are we going to exceed members' expectations during the adaptation phase? How are we going to do that during the isolation phase? And hey, while we don't know all the answers and timeline about the activation phase, what is that going to look like coming back stronger than ever? So that was the most important piece, and to Nat and Peter's point, just over-communicating that as all the updates came through. And then that translates to the communication and the products we offered to both paying members and non-paying members. And that was critical because we needed to provide a revenue model, but we were empathetic with the fact that not every member was in a position, job losses, all that stuff, to pay for membership. So franchisees had services they could provide for the paying member and the non-paying member. And what we've noticed, which has been really positive, is for those clubs and regions that have been able to reopen, beyond the strong reactivations of their existing membership base, which is largely due to they remain active and engaged with our community, we had a lot of prospects saying, hey, we were watching how much you did for your community, and we saw the vibe and the interaction and the team environment that you guys created through all the stuff you're doing during lockdown. We want to be a part of that. And so it was really critical to understand people are watching what brands are doing this during this period. And, and that you don't do it for that purpose, you do it for the purpose of servicing your members. But, the more proactive you are, the more goodwill you can create within your greater network.
Thanks, Michael. Julianne, I'll come to you in just 1 second. I'm going to ask the audience a quick question on this. Ladies and gents in the audience, what companies over the past few months have impressed you the most in terms of how they're building their company culture? How have they resonated in your minds? If there's any companies that come to mind at all, local, international, multinational, whoever, please do write them in the comment box and just tell us why you think they've done a great job at increasing their company culture and brand. Julianne, the same to yourself, of course. You do have a number of employees across every single region. How have you managed to continue to build brand equity, and of course then with that company culture?
Well, brand equity to me means your values, your core values. And I'm known personally and professionally to have integrity, be reliable, be able to deliver quality over a long period and on multiple levels in multiple countries. You must maintain quality is a must. But I'm also launching a new brand. So therefore, with a new brand, I have to trust the faith of the existing brand. I've built up the trust within that existing brand to collaborate with already reputable brands. So I'm in a bit of a risk situation, which that's what you have to do to develop new identity, is trust in your existing brand. But to create a new brand, I'm with reputable companies that also believe and trust and have those core values.
Myan, the same question to you to finish off.
Yeah, for us, it's, for us was what I loved getting into brand identity. And when we were creating the centered brand, we dived into hours and hours and months of coming up with our name and the purpose behind it. And with that, I could spend hours on talking about brand identity. And for us, it was interesting because as the pandemic began, you could see in our team and investors and even strategic partners that there was a lot of worry of like, oh my God, your guys are about to launch a travel platform in the midst of the pandemic. And maybe the influence can come when you're an entrepreneur to maybe tweak your brand based on that influence, which is very dangerous to do. And for me, after 20 years of much failure and some success as an entrepreneur, one thing I've learned is you got to know who you are. It's Ross, we were talking about the other day, to know your why. And so for us, it was communicating to our team, no, we know our why, we know our purpose, we know there's an opportunity to change travel, and we want to be in every single travel transaction in the world and be that trusted resource. That's a huge vision for us. So we kept to that, and we kept pushing that. And Nat is talking about, private equity the other day, and others trying to influence a little bit about, shareholder price, or, oh God, all this stuff. We all as entrepreneurs deal with that if you have, VC-backed companies. And so for us, it was like, no, guys, I'm sorry. This is what we're doing. We know what our brand is because, like you said, Julianne, it's our value system. It's who we are, and we're not going to stray away from that. And I tell you what, I'm so glad that we dug in and did that, because you've seen the fruits of that already. And this is just the beginning. So it was really that simple for us. It's just, we got to stick to who we are, and we're not going to go get influenced by even internal groups or even some of our own team members, who are worried about, oh my God, travel.
Yep. Thanks for that, Brian. I'm going to turn the focus, ladies and gents, on to looking at the leaders themselves, the people behind the company. So to our panelists, obviously you have endured some very difficult and challenging times these past few months, but what has been perhaps the hardest challenge that you've had to come? And you can take this from either a personal direction or a business direction, because we've all had to try and overcome some pretty tough challenges. Michael, let me start with you at the moment in time, if you could share with the audience your thoughts. With Michael, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, when you look back on the last 6 months, it's certainly been a whirlwind. It seems like a number of years rolled in one in terms of the number of challenges and crises and unexpected twists and turns you've had to deal with. So, to list a couple is tricky. I think the biggest overwhelming part of this period has been the uncertainty, particularly at the start. That for us, as speaking with a number of other operators, was the most challenging part. When I remember on a Sunday night here in Australia, where we've got the majority of our 12 round, Scott Morrison just casually mentioned in one of his conferences that gyms would be closed for 6 months. And up until then, you'd never even thought that would be possible. And suddenly you're dealing with this new future, unknown future. And for everyone, it was very challenging times. And of course, that then drives your focus and your motivation, because you've got to understand everyone's going through it, and you've got a purpose. And for us, it was our franchisees ensuring that, we had a strategy in place to navigate the immediate short term, the goalpost. Right, let's focus on the next month, the next target, because you can't plan for this, as we've seen. And so that was certainly tough, and something we've tried to work through. And I guess the second, probably the most recent challenging part to this year has been the majority of the network reopening, and then the teams in Victoria just being, after what is, we all know, such a huge effort to reopen pubs, the emotion and the energy that goes into that, and then to be open for 2.5 weeks and then go back into this extended lockdown has been terribly challenging for the franchisees, and they've done a fantastic job to keep their head up and keep attending the Zooms and following up with their members. But I know, them seeing the rest of the network reopen and trying to stay positive and optimistic during some of that period has been really challenging. But I think when you start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, as they're starting to see now, and we've got that focus towards the reactivation phase, it's exciting to come out of that. But that period for Victoria that they're going through right now has certainly been a huge challenge.
Yeah, there's obviously some regions still heavily affected, and our thoughts are with those. Pete, let me turn to yourself, of course. What have been your thoughts in terms of the biggest challenges you've had to come over the past few months?
We had a baby boy on the day that this was named the global pandemic. I had a baby boy with my business partner, who's my wife, on that day that this was named that. So it's been challenging having a new addition to the family and trying to give, energy to the family in a time when, you're sitting there and kids are playing at your feet and you're kind of reading an article or seeing something on the TV and you're trying to put your understanding of the world together and be present for the people around you, but you're really somewhere else. So there's an element of guilt from the family side of things where you're supposed to be present, but you're not. I found that personally very, very challenging. I think it's very easy, Ross, to come into these days and hear a lot of very strong people talk about their plans about going forward and whatnot. But I think it is important to acknowledge the difficulty that is this period for a lot of operators, and not just in fitness and wellness, but we have very close friends that operate smaller F&B or other smaller businesses that have really struggled through this period. So I think we have a service back to other owners and operators to tell them that, hey, this has been shitty, and it's okay for you to get a little bit dark on this period. But not everyone has to have the plan. There was a lot of heavy media coming out saying, you've got Elon Musk or Mark Cuban saying, this is a time when a brand will be defined or a leader will be defined. And it just puts further pressure on you in a time when you're not really being given information to make these critical decisions. So I think it's been a really, really tough period, and I'm not going to sit here and think and for a second say that we had the number one plan all the time. We made mistakes. We said and did things at a client perspective and also a staff perspective that if I had my time over again, we would have done differently. But at the same time, I think it's just been very, very challenging for a lot of business owners and leaders, because essentially we're craving stability from above and we are required to give stability to people that look up to us. So it's a chain reaction of things that are just very, very challenging right now. The positive for me is I think we've built a great business, and a business that's going to survive this. And there's been a few things as recently as this last few days where I'm like, shit, we actually got through it, I think. I know there's still stuff happening, but there's been a few little indicators where I'm like, man, we've got this. And we're not only just got it, we're actually going to do okay. We're going to push into the next year and we're going to be pretty fantastic. And it's been humbling. It's been humbling to know that we've built a great business and knowing what we came from to what we are now, a real legitimate business that's going to weather, one of the biggest storms in the last 50 to 100 years in business. And yeah, it's been challenging, but I think the fog is clearing, and I think there is, to the group's point, there's a light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah, thanks for the honest share. Pete, Julianne, yourself, either some personal or some business reflections and challenges?
I've got both, actually, because I have been away overseas, expanding my company, been lucky enough, and I realised how lucky I was to be able to travel and explore different cultures, which I really found that was my way of life. So I've come back from Australia to do a roadshow, and then bang, I'm still here. So, and on the other hand, I'm grateful because I live across the road from the beach, and we've been very lucky in Queensland. So, it's just made me realise that my wings have been clipped. I'm also a bit of a fish out of water because I'm used to having interaction and educating people and having hands-on experience. So it was a huge transition. But the other side was my franchisees, giving them so much support, but without any, obviously, I had to pay staff to support them, and they're not being able to finance support. So, so then you're looking at business strategy. But then I realized that's my role. I have to give them support. And the communication process wasn't two-way either, because they were feeling it. But I just realized to take a step back, understand their position. My role is to give them support, and maybe take a step back and give myself some support too. So I've created a health and wellbeing training program for the teachers when they're ready. So to give them some, how are you feeling time, So I'm always trying to evolve to see how I can support them.
Yeah, it's a great ideas, Julianne, really great ideas. Team first, as they say. Nad, your thoughts?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, personally, there are 4 players in my team, my wife and 2 kids, and trying to manage that and survive as a strong family unit across 3 continents has been extremely challenging over this period of time. I think I've also been reminded how much of a control freak I actually am and how out of control I am right now. So completely out of my comfort zone. I can't just jump on a plane and head to wherever I need to have a meeting or see family. That's been extremely challenging, somewhat overwhelming at times. From a professional perspective, I think operating across 6 markets has been super interesting because we've had the highs and the lows all at different times. and different requirements across the 6 different markets. We can do this here, we can't do that there. You know, we open in one market, then had to close and then reopen and reclose. So that backwards and forwards and trying to motivate the team, remotivate the team, everybody's excited and everybody's down in the dumps because we've had to close again. That's been quite challenging. Keeping the members engaged during that process, of course, has been an even bigger challenge. But that's where our communication has been key. I think that's been my main takeaway, is that communication piece, both external and internal. But, you know, at the end of the day, we know what we do well. And keeping our members engaged and keeping them informed is part of what we do well. It underpins all of our brand values across every one of our brands. And then the opportunity, I guess, to look at starting to bridge remote and bricks and mortar. That's been a positive outcome of what we've had to face as a challenge as a business.
Thanks, Matt. Ladies and gents, we're going to move into our last 2 questions, and we're going to give the panelists all of about 20 seconds each to answer these questions. I am conscious of time. The first question will be, where does the future of your company lie? Where does the future of your company lie? Brian, over to you first for a quick fire answer.
Ooh, man, that's in 20 seconds. All right, I already gave up 2. You know, for us, we see it being a piece of all of our travel journey, and that starts with just the little things. For us, it's just the little things. I love the quote, "Don't despise the day, small beginnings." You know, you can chomp on a big elephant, but you got to do it one at a time. And so for us, we have a big vision to be in every travel transaction in the world. The only way we're going to do that is build trust and be a resource within travel. And really, what excites me about Centered and what we're doing is travel wellness is in some ways kind of a new thing. You know, you see a couple of companies out there calling themselves travel wellness, and the more, the better. It's something that we want to own and take on and put that into everybody's peace of mind. Because the reality is, as we start going into travel again, it's your health and your peace of mind that you're going to need as you go and leave your homes, leave your families, and so on. So for Centered, we want to be that brand where you think immediately Centered. You know, Centered is there for me to help me along the way. So that's what we're doing, and hopefully I did that in 20 seconds.
I'm not too sure it was 20 seconds, Brian, but I'm going to allow it. Michael, over to yourself. 20 seconds. Where does the future of 12 round and UBX lie?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. Yeah, at the start I said, you know, our long-term vision hasn't changed. They're the leading and largest boxing and strength community in the world. I think what will drive that, though, is, as it always does with us, as with a lot of franchisees, is franchise success and advocacy, and member success and advocacy. They're the 2 big drivers for our types of businesses. And so we've just got to continue to work our butts off to get through this period and emerge from it stronger than ever. And I think with the adaptations and the additions we've made in this last 6 months, once we get through this this period, there's some really exciting times.
Thanks,
ahead.
Michael. Julianne?
Well, my new identity is premium aquatic business strategies. So with that, I want to really let people know that the aquatic fitness world is part of the wellness program. There's so many benefits about exercising in water. And I think it can be combined with on-land fitness for rehabilitation, for people who want to build up their strength gradually before they step into a gym. There's so many benefits about the aquatic world. That's my vision.
Right, I'll try and be 20 seconds. So we've got our own corporate growth still in the pipeline, GoFit and Fire, plus the opportunity for partners to benefit from that expertise. I think it's fascinating that we've, for decades, talked about how to penetrate the population in greater numbers than we have so far. At this moment in time, I don't think our industry has received so much exposure ever before. We've got to place ourselves now to take full advantage of that. I think those that have the foresight, fortitude, and of course the funding to line themselves up ready for that boom are going to be the biggest winners. So in addition to our core business, we're also focusing on the development of our SaaS software solution for other operators. It's currently in play across all of our brands, all 6 markets, built for operators by operators. I think we're on to a winning year next year.
Couldn't agree more, Nad. Pete?
For Yoga Movement, I believe the long-term success is still based on excellent brand and excellent service through the provision of epic stuff in multiple markets and multiple platforms. As long as Evolution Wellness doesn't do a yoga brand, so we should be fine as long as that's it. It's largely doing the same that we've always done, but just mitigating the risk of being in a single market. We still want to focus on excellent brand and excellent service and value for client, value for team.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask the speakers just to take 10 seconds just now and just write their contact information into the chat box so that everybody can contact the speakers. The closing question will be, what has kept a smile on your face these past few weeks or few months? Again, 20 seconds only. What has kept a smile on your face these last 20 seconds? I'll go to Nad first.
American politics, both the smile and constantly scratching my head and pinching myself. Is this real? I think the opportunity to innovate and develop new shit, that's what's really kept a smile on my face, to the extent that with the backing of EW and the support of the exec team, we've actually formally created a growth and innovation office, which I lead, which means that I can lock myself in my padded cell, do some really crazy out-the-box thinking, bring new stuff to the market, adopt an agile approach to how we develop those things. I'm introducing Scrum to the organization. So as a Scrum Master, that gets me super excited. So you can probably tell I'm pretty excited, really.
It's good to be, pal. It's good to be. Julianne?
I'm going to, for me, it's again innovation. I've created a lot of new concepts, which I'm very excited about. But as Albert Einstein quoted, in the middle of all diversity and problems, you can find opportunities. So I'm looking at that. I'm finding opportunities wherever I can, and I'm sharing my knowledge.
I think that's a fantastic stance to take. Brian?
Yeah, for us, it's today. We're excited. Today we do our first press release, both in New York and London and Asia. So we're pretty pumped up about that. So hopefully you'll see that soon. Good
man. Well, congratulations again, Brian. Pete?
I'm going for home points, guys. My smile's been all about family through this period. So it's been good to be spending a little bit more time with the family and going on long skateboard rides and whatnot with my sons. Had a really good time. And then the varied home haircuts I've given myself have also kept a smile on my face. So
that's why I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Michael, last but not least.
Yeah, just franchisees, they've been sensational. Their endurance and, resilience to keep turning up to the Zooms and all the stuff they've done over the last 6 months certainly has been inspiring for us. And also I'd say the realization that Zoom will never, ever take over the bricks and mortar fitness experience. Right. So
I agree. I agree, Mike.
Agree more on that. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to put your thoughts into the chat box just now. What has kept a smile on your face? I'll close this, ladies and gentlemen, by thanking Julianne, Michael, Nad, Peter, Brian, for a really great conversation. This is recorded, and we'll get this recording to you out on Friday morning, approximately 40 hours from now. So look, a really interesting discussion. Thanks for staying with us, folks. We're going to do a little small break now. There's another discussion on the main stage still happening for the next few minutes. And then we've got a diversity and inclusion panel at 4:15, which will be fantastic. John, Jack, Simon, Tracy, Jean, and the audience, everyone at home, thank you very much. But for now, see you later, and all the very best for the rest of the year. Take care.
Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Peter, give me a call about that yoga.